Hey guys, and welcome to a showdown between myself and the legendary Optimus Pine, as the forces of the Tomb Kings do march on the Altdorf outskirts, but Bretonnia has ridden to their aid, and we shall fight on the plains before Altdorf. Should be a good fun matchup. Optimus Pine, always a pleasure to have as a warrior against you. Very good player and a really lovely person. So today we are going to be showcasing a pretty disgusting tactic, which is a triple hero chariot core we'll get to in just a second, and it is very, very, very powerful, but I haven't seen too many people use it. I've been aware of this tactic for a very long time because someone called Zeus used to play it back in the day. I have sent this out to a few people to get their perspective of it as well, but I'd love to hear your thoughts down below in the comments of such a style of play. So, speaking of the disgusting tactic, here we are. It is the triple chariot, and these guys synergize so well together. So on the right hand side here we do have Cetra the Imperishable, going to be coming in of course with the Incantation of Cursed Blades as well as Incantation of Protection, both very powerful spells, but more importantly we have the Wrath of Petra. This will be given fire damage and magic damage of course, and is a nice little explosion, but more importantly the Blessed Blade of Petra, which blinds the enemy and imbues fire damage once more. It looks like apart from that we do have the Crown, Unyielding Will, all the good standard stuff, but he's going to be combining alongside the Necrotect. So remember, Cetra does fire damage, and that Necrotect has a pretty useful item that you don't get to see terribly often, the Vambraces of the Sun. Lowering melee attack by 9 and giving a 22% fire weakness to enemies all surrounding him. He's also coming in with the Elixir of Might, which he can pop on Cetra to make him even more killy. Alongside that, we have a Tomb Prince who's going to be giving Guardian to both of those characters, coming in with the Blade of Setep, making his opponents even weaker, as well as Tomb Strike and the very powerful Curse of Jave, forcing enemies to have minus 24 melee attack and rampage. These three guys together hit like an absolute truck. They can delete pretty much any cavalry unit in the game, character, and all that good stuff. We might even do some testing at the end of the video. Apart from that, we have the Eyes of the Desert here, regiment around Sneaky Snakes. Front line's going to be pretty cheap and cheerful, just skeleton warriors into the sunset, dotted throughout, and some spearmen on the flanks, including King Neketch's Scorpion Legion, and double Tomb Guard with halberds. These guys are elite bad to the bones infantry, literally as well, and yeah, they're going to be pretty useful up against the forces of Bretonnia, trying to pin in and take out those cavalry, with a couple of carrion up in the skies as well. As for my opponent, he's gone very wide, which I like to see in this matchup. A ton of battle pilgrims and men-at-arms dotted through the front line, including, I believe, the regiment of renowned one, the Holy Wardens, who have such a badass name. They're little mini Beric Dondarrions with their flaming swords, getting ready to get in there and bring the pain. We do have the Companions of Cornelis as well in the back here, anti-large Questing Knights, very powerful units. In fact, arguably the best cavalry unit in the game if they are accompanied by healing. We have more Questing Knights as well dotted along the back line, so some pretty elite cavalry. Up in the skies we have a Paladin on his mighty steed, and the Fey Enchantress of course. The Fae and King Leonor and Kerr are both very good characters, but I think the Fae edges out in most matchups, coming in with her Chalice of Potions, Favour of the Fae, Regrowth, Earthblood, all the good standard stuff that you would expect to see. Without further ado, let's get this battle underway. I actually do believe we have Gotrek hiding somewhere. I seem to remember him leading the forces. There he is. We have Gotrek in the centre pocket with one unit of Peasant Bowmen as well. So Gotrek is going to be the one unit we fear here. The triple chariots do not want to tussle with him, at least when he is supported by cavalry and other units which can pin us in. Of course, if we have the opportunity to cycle charge him, then I'm absolutely all for going after the little dwarf himself. Karen swooped down on top of some of the Peasant Bowmen, just trying to test my opponent's micro, get a few kills and float back up in the sky. Looks like one poor Karen is stuck down on the ground, however, and some knights will be running him over. The Paladin does swoop down as well to engage in hand-to-hand combat. The Companions are starting to float around this left-hand side. We're going to be driving them off with Cetra, winking at them and roaring defiantly and trying to entice them into combat, but they're not having any of it. They do decide to fall back, and it looks like instead we are going to be moving our chariots over to hit those men-at-arms. And along the front line, the Skeleton Warriors have engaged with men-at-arms and battle pilgrims. Not going too well to my front line. Wherever these chariots go, they're going to be able to run over the men-at-arms rather successfully. Sneaky Snakes in the back, looking to get some free shots on the Companions if possible. As we can see, Skeleton Warriors going up against men-at-arms to be a bit more of a fair fight. Have the battle pilgrims wherever they go, Bretonnia shall prosper. And it looks like the Questing Knights trying to form up a big blob on this left-hand side around Gotrek to come down and hunt down my chariot core. We charge into the Holy Wardens, but in come the Questing Knights, which is a little bit scary. We are going to be tending to engage to start with. We don't want to get too swarmed here, however, as we're not very well protected. Skeleton Spearmen are nearby, but as you can see, the Question Knights getting absolutely butchered here. We do start popping all those buffs and debuffs on them, and in a matter of seconds, this huge unit of Question Knights, which is isolated just up against our chariots, is defeated, running for their lives. However, Gotrek's a little bit close. We have dropped the blade on him. Gotrek's doom has been popped down. The next attack's going to have to fall back. We do manage to dodge one of the phase comets from the sky with our Tomb Guard with halberds, and in the back lines, good play by my opponent. He has swarmed on top of our sneaky snakes with the companions plus Favour of the Fae, given that added melee attack is really rinsing their way through my sneaky boys. Tomb Guard are here to support, and elsewhere on the battlefield, we're basically losing everywhere. We're trying to whip the King that catches Scorpion Legion round behind the enemy, and Carrion are doing a good job as well. Chariot Corps starts to float out to this right-hand side, gunning for the companions at this point. They're a high-value target, the type of target we like to delete. Coming charging inside to drop our buffs and debuffs. In comes the Ushopti Summon in the back, trying to pin these guys in place. Earthblood does go down, very well timed by our opponent, but we have Tomb Guard Halberd supporting, and the companions simply stand no chance, getting deleted rather quickly there. And now we can pull our chariots through this direction to safety and away from Gotrek, who's constantly been on their heels. Looks like that Paladin has moved in with the Charmed Shield, looking for a bit of support, and such as turning to engage this as the other two chariots do rove in, looking to pin him from behind. And even with the Charmed Shield, the Paladin simply stands no chance whatsoever. The Incantation of Protection goes down on Cetra, and that Paladin's health and leadership absolutely tanks. Looks like he's going to be breaking it before Gotrek can free himself from his Ushopti tethers and float over here to save the day, and that Paladin shall be running. In the distance, Carrion are just picking apart some of the peasant bowmen with pox arrows, going to force those guys off the field, don't want them coming back, being a pain in the butt late game. King the Catcher Scorpion Legion is doing relatively solid as well on the right hand flank. Gotrek's taking a little bit of a beating now. All three chariots are starting to focus him down with the help of the Ushopti, but he's also giving as good as he gets, and some more Question Knights do rally back into the cause. Over on the far side, our Eyes of the Desert look like they're about to get sniped out by a Paladin who is also getting healed up here. The Enchantress having to flee from the Tomb Guard, which is a really good idea. She's very tanky in the fact she's a lot of healing potential, and of course a lovely draining and all that kind of good stuff. But Tomb Guard are relatively elite warriors and should do a decent job at pulling her apart if she's not too careful here. Snakes going down, Paladin regrowth up is easily going to be twice the match for them. The Triple Chariots do decide to disengage, leave these Tomb Guard to their own devices, trying to drag down Gotrek and some of the cavalry, and instead we're going to be focusing our eyes on the prize, which of course shall be the leadership of the Bretonnian forces, and in come all the chariots. Now we get pinned up on some rather brave Question Knights, putting their lives on the line for the lady. Necrotect, though, still manages to get the charge across with the support of those Tomb Guard, and it looks like it's just about going to be enough to break her off, and she starts to run for her life before a potion comes down and does some okay damage actually to the Necrotect, although Incantation of Protection's on him, and Incantation of Cursed Blades, driving the Fae from the field. That Paladin, who did get healed up and Favour of the Fade, is going to be running before the might of the Tomb Prince, who's currently causing terror because of the Doom Strike. And now we can start to ally ourselves with these Tomb Guard with halberds and form a bit of an unstoppable death blob. However, Gotrek's made one himself. He's rallied the manlins to his cause. We don't need no Fae Enchantress here. We need good, solid dwarvish work. It looks like Faye has been got Arcane Conduit and somehow Earthblood. Maybe she rallied very quickly, but the Necrotech should be able to escort her off the field, keeping up that pace. Carrying the distance as well, going to be just gobbling up those peasant bowmen. They've been chasing them for an absolute age. Carrion, one of those units I don't like too much, but they do a job, and that job, of course, is harassing the back line and scaring off some units who do kind of threaten to rally and come back. Paladin routes just by the mere presence of our awesome Chariot Corps. The men-at-arms are shattered and running for their lives. We have Tomb Guard coming back now. And in the distance, King the Catcher Scorpion Legion is going to be chasing down Battle Pilgrims, men-at-arms. And at this point, the battle is relatively heavily in our favour, at least according to the balance of power. But I don't want to take too many chances. We are moving our chariots around, trying to clear up the rest of the battlefield where possible. Although the Holy Wardens and Gotrek probably going to be able to see to these Tomb Guard relatively effectively. It's always good to see these guys in action. Those flaming swords whipping around, decapitating heads and breaking bones. At the same time, a flaming sword would be really, really annoying to use because it would suck the oxygen out of you a little bit. But, you know, they're doing a good job of making it seem easy. Our chariots do come in for a nice little hit and run. Paladin tries to respond and counterpunch us with the help of Gotrek. Gotrek's Doom is currently popped. But I'm just going to try to pull away from the slower dwarf, drag this Paladin out of position, and then we can hop on him and do some nice damage. Karen are being used to chase off the men-at-arms polearms. Likewise, same situation going off in the distance. We're going to do a nice little hit and run once again on Gotrek, who's just getting ramrodded at the moment by the Tomb Prince, who has Tomb Strike popped on him. Gotrek's health is tanking, but he has a big hit on Setcher. Remember, if our Tomb Prince does get below half health, though, we have that very powerful Rampage, also lowering the melee attack by 24, which can come in pretty handy. Paladin baits a charge in, swooping down low, maybe considering coming in and trying to go after Setcher and assassinate him. Looks like that's just what he's going to do. Chariots do start to divert round, but we are going to turn around to engage this. However, Chariots do have a pretty funky charge animation at different times. We're going to come in with our buffs and debuffs once more, Incantation of Protection, and all that good stuff. Force off that Paladin rather quickly. Gotrek is now going to struggle isolated and alone. Karen continues to chase off troops. Likewise, King Maketcha's Scorpion Legion going to war with those men-at-arms, and we should easily be able to win that engagement for the most part. Balance power is very heavily in our favour, but as I said, Gotrek, if he can stand on his two dwarvish feet and lift his mighty axe and bring it down on our characters here, he's going to do some pretty horrific damage. We're simply going to be moving over our chariots, chasing up these loose units, which of course is all in an effort to try to push that balance power as heavily in our favour as possible, so all of these troops abandon Gotrek, and then we can cycle charge him down at the death. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit as we do start just running over people, which of course is the right thing to do in this situation. My opponent's simply going to vibe in the tree line there, which is completely cool as well. At this point, I was going to bring back the King Maketcha's Scorpion Legion, but I was relatively confident in our Chariot Corps to finish this anyway. So we're going to try to snipe out the Paladin first, who of course is going to be protecting Gotrek with his life. Setcher getting a little bit danger low. Incantation of Protection does go down. Karen also starts to swoop into the back, and that Paladin is getting destroyed here. Necrotect is also going pretty good. Tomb Prince is full health. We're going to pull back away with Setcher, who is taking the brunt of the damage, and the other two chariots as the Karen feast upon the souls of the battle pilgrims and Gotrek, and then we can whirl back in once more and charge into the fray. Poor little Gotrek. Blade of Setep has been popped on him, lowering his physical resistance and armor, but of course he's a Slayer, doesn't need no armor, and we can simply stay in this fight now. Blessed Blade has been popped, lowering the stats of Gotrek, and he does get his heal, which is really good news. The heal actually has been fixed. It was bugged for so long, so to see it come into action and work is always a bit of a treat. These Karen look absolutely horrific, and Setcher just rides through over top of Gotrek, cackles, laughs, and there's not too much the Slayer can do. Still a good display by him. I think he got some pretty good damage value, or at least I'd bet on it, and we'll have a look in just a second. But well played to my opponent. Optimus Pine, always a treat, really cool dude. He pops in a lot of the streams and is the master of epic puns. Put up a good fight as well up against the triple chariot. It feels so disgusting to use, so I'd really like to know your guys' thoughts down below on how do you feel about the triple chariot threat. It can certainly do a lot of damage, but it is very, very, very expensive, as to be expected. So you do want it to do this massive amount of damage, but it can just float around the battlefield, assassinating characters, key targets. Question Knights simply could not hold the line against it. I've actually been experimenting now with a different build than this one. I've just started to get into Tomb Kings a little bit, and bringing a casket of souls, and your opponent needs to shut down the casket, otherwise it will just kill their infantry, and every time they come close with even a dragon, these three chariots will burst it down, absolute no problems. Hope you enjoyed this one. We'll get to the damage value, damage stats in just a second, but if you enjoyed, feel free to leave a big fat thumbs up, and feel free to subscribe as well to the channel. We're getting dangerously close to 5,000 subs, which is going to be a pretty good fun time. It's always good to hit those type of milestones. In the description down below, there's links to my Discord and Patreon. Of course, on Patreon, you can support the channel and get invited to exclusive channels on the Discord and special events, and in the Discord, you can send me replays, train your skills up against experienced and newer players, see a lot of pictures of ducks, which is always quite good. There's a meme page, there's a replays for casting page, there's a little bit of absolutely everything there. I think we have like 550 members now or something insane. So yeah, feel free to hop in if you're involved in the Total War Warhammer scene. But anyway, on to the good stuff. Let's look at our chariot blob first. Setcher the Imperishable, 80 kills, 10,000 damage, 2,247 damage value. Likewise, Necrotect, 1,886 damage value, and the Tomb Prince, who is pretty much full health at the end game here, 1,644. So, again, these characters are very expensive, but they managed to make a ton of that damage value back, plus still had more left to give because they were all obviously alive at the end, and the Tomb Prince basically, it was new. He took a tiny amount of damage. That's because we let him stay in at the end against Gotrek, because we were so confident of victory at the death there. Skeleton Warriors across the line didn't do too much. Likewise, the Spearmen actually performed okay. 690 damage value on this unit. The King Nekesha's Scorpion Legion only 302 damage value, but at the end were still pretty tanky. The Tomb God Halberds, 2,562 damage, 1,100. I think some of those Question Knights overstayed their welcome a tiny bit. Likewise did the Fae. Double Karen did their job, just hunting down routing units. Unfortunately, Eyes of the Desert, I don't think were synergized too well with the build. There wasn't really anything to protect them, and the Question Knights simply ramrodded their way into the back line with a lovely bit of micro by my opponent popping favour of the Fae on them, butchering them where they stood. As for Optimus Pine's build, Fae Enchantress, 627 damage value, not great, but not too shabby. Paladin, 1,100. Gotrek, though, 2,500 damage value. Insane work by the little dwarf, and he was the main counter my opponent had to the chariots, and he was ever doggedly on my hills, trying to hunt them down, doing a lot of damage value, but unfortunately not getting the ultimate prize of dragging one of them to their doom. Battle programs did solid across the board. I actually quite like the Holy Wardens in this matchup, 800 damage value and 100 kills, certainly not too shabby. Unfortunately, the Peasant Bowman did get feasted upon by the Karen, and the Question Knights across the board, 238 damage value, 845, and only 1,000 on the companions, which is mainly due to the fact they killed those snakes, but as soon as we hopped on with the chariots, they get burst down so quickly, break from the field, and have little impact on the game. Anyway guys, hope you enjoyed that one. Until next time, peace, and as always, stay awesome.